Happy Lammas and happy Lughnasadh. Hello, my name is Arek and I'm a Unitarian minister serving a Unitarian congregation in the centre of Leicester. And Lammas marks the beginning of the harvest season. It is the bringing in of the first crops. It is high summer. The earth is scorched, the sun is blazing, and yet the union of the earth and the sun has yielded its first harvest. The first grain is being gathered in. And there is wisdom in that, you know. As grain is gathered, we can be sure that there will be enough food to sustain our communities for winter. And within that harvest, there already is the seed of next year's rebirth, regeneration, and harvest. Now, look, I'm not a farmer. I'm not even much of a gardener, to be honest, but I have been foraging blackberries lately because there's such an abundance of them where I live. And right now, my freezer is just jam-packed with blackberries. I've even started baking with them. I just didn't know what to do with them, and I figured the best way to deal with abundance is to share it. I have to admit, though, while I like cooking, there is something about baking that just doesn't entirely agree with me, but I persevered. So I started from something as simple as blackberry crumble that I brought to the church to share with other people, and then later I graduated eventually to even things like sweet yeast dough buns, so you can call it my wonky Lammas loaf. Alright, I know it doesn't look sexy, it is a bit wonky, but I promise you it's absolutely banging. But doing it, I've learned something. So the first thing I've learned is that Mother Nature, or Mother God if you prefer, already provides in abundance. Provides much, if not everything that we need to live on this planet. But the second thing I've learned through foraging and baking is that when we share what we have, our treasures, our gifts, our skills, our wisdom, we don't actually lose anything, we multiply it. And this is something that my Unitarian faith teaches. Unitarianism is an open, non-dogmatic tradition embracing wisdom wherever we find it. So among us, you'll find people who are quite happy to simply call themselves Unitarians, full stop. But you'll also find people who are Unitarian Christians and Unitarian Pagans and Unitarian Hindus and Unitarian Humanists and all sorts of combinations, even within one congregation. And you'll also find plenty of people who avoid labels altogether and are content to be simply called searchers or spiritual seekers. We gather together in our faith communities because we recognize that bringing together the harvest of our diverse wisdom, diverse viewpoints, diverse spirituality helps us grow. It helps us to feed and sustain one another. There is a wonderful story in the Christian scriptures, which I know will be read in many churches around this time of the year, and this time round it will be read from the Gospel of Matthew, and it is the story about Jesus' miraculous feeding of the multitudes. And there's something in that people miss quite often, namely that in the Gospels, this story appears twice. So first we've got the feeding of the 5,000, then there comes a short discussion about food and purity and faith and who gets access to what resources and what is considered holy and what is considered good, who's an insider, who's an outsider, and so on. And then there is another feeding, but this time of 4,000 people. And in that story, this is feeding of the Gentiles. So in context, people from outside of our immediate circle. And after that second meal, there are still 12 baskets full of food left over. Despite sharing what we had far and wide, there is enough. There is always more than enough. As a Unitarian, I don't need to believe that this story happened literally in order to find wisdom in it. But maybe it has. Maybe it was a miracle of people coming together and discovering that together they always have more than they do as individuals. That we are always more than the sum of our parts when we come together. It is a story about abundance. Once you begin to share what you have, others join in. And somehow, rather than having less, the community discovers that it has more, and your cup overfloweth. My Unitarian faith teaches me that this is also true of things like wisdom, spiritual wisdom, and love, and kindness, and respect. These are things that do not diminish when we give them away. So this Lammas, as we begin to gather in the grain of our labor and the harvest of our wisdom, may we not be afraid to share it and to receive it from others as well. Share it with one another. Share it with those beyond your immediate community, and if you'd like, maybe even share it with me. Just imagine the kind of abundant world we might create if, instead of closing ourselves in our little silos, see what I did there, we shared the grain of our wisdom. I'd like to end with a Lammas prayer, which was sent to me by the Unitarian Earth Spirit Network. Here is the circle, once more completing the sheaves of wheat and corn tall, rustling with dormice, proud and drinking all that light. We are this, swollen grains, and we are also the blade. Life makes life. How to honor the patches of blonde stubble on the earth. A corn dolly watches from the mantelpiece. She sees our full bellies, our cellars full of sacks. We dance in spirals, orbiting one another. That's right, she says. Live fully with all our gifts. May it be so, and happy Lammas.